Okay. I think he is here. Hello.
Yeah, hi Elvin. I'm here.
Hey, Mr. Pramit. How you doing,
Yeah,
sir?
please call me Pramit.
Pramit. Okay, all right. Will do.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
so I'm just gonna um, introduce you in a minute or two here. I'm just gonna break down what's going on for the audience. So for the people that's listening in, welcome everyone to another edition of Where's My Damn Podcast. I am your host. I have a very special guest on the line. He's going to talk about um, an app. Yes, an app, a particular app that he has put together, and we're going to break down everything. He's going to explain everything as far as what the app does. And for the listening audience, just to inform everyone, like I'm visually impaired. I know uh, that people that have listened to this podcast or heard my voice. Um, I do stand up. I do DJ, and so that's like a couple of the things that I'm passionate about and really interested um, as far as that side of things. But not, aside from that, like I said, I'm visually impaired, and I'm a Apple user, iPhone user, and uh, not a lot of people know, unless you're visually impaired, that there's a voice over system built inside the phone that allows blind people to navigate and allows um, for it to read the screen and use your apps, go on YouTube and read your emails and things like that. So it allows your the text, whatever's on the screen, for the blind person to like, I guess, audio wise, to verbally like read the screen. Um, yeah. So and that's with Siri. That's with Siri on the iPhone. I forget what it is on the Android. Uh, yeah, but I'm pretty sure Pramit will explain everything. Um, but yeah, I'm visually impaired, like I said, and I ran into him online on Facebook, and I happened to click on this link he shared, and I got really curious about it and really interested on what he's trying to do, um, and so yeah, this is I think a game changer for a lot of blind users. Um, and I like when I saw the video, it it primarily does a lot more than what Siri allows. I mean, a lot of people would probably think, Siri does does everything. For a blind user, no, it only does, you know, do certain things. Not a lot of things, but some things. So we're gonna get into it. Enough for me rambling. uh, so my guest, he's all the way from India, and we'll definitely get into his background. Um, but yeah, he's from India, and everyone, I would like to welcome to the listening audience, Pramit B. Is that it? Is that your last name? How do you pronounce your last name, Pramit?
Oh, it's rather complicated. It's
Oh, okay,
Bhargava, so
okay.
it's Pramit Bhargava.
Okay,
So
Barack
that's why I
Obama.
said Pramit is good.
Okay, Pramit is a good. Is good. Well, welcome in, sir. Thank you for joining us on my podcast. So, like I said, I kind of touched on it a little bit. Let's begin as far as like your background. I, I I'm obviously I think for sure you're visually impaired as well, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So this app is called Louis Voice. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's talk about your background, your history a little bit. Have you been blind or born blind, or what's and like what is your condition as far as your eyesight?
Okay, so I have actually led first half of my life, half of my life practically as a person with a normal vision, and the second half with somebody as a visually impaired.
Mm-hmm.
So I am by education a computer engineer, and then
Mm-hmm.
who did his MBA, and both from India's top technical and management institutes. They are called
Mm-hmm.
the IIT and the IM. And then I've worked with global companies like Unilever, Motorola, Quest Diagnostics. And it was really about 20 years back. I was given a drug that reacted on my retina. It was
Mm-hmm.
a freakish reaction, but all the same, my vision dropped drastically, I think almost overnight, because I just didn't detect that my vision has dropped so much. And at that
How?
time I could still get some correction with the specs, so I could still sort of, I was still working and I could still read and somehow still manage. But then the vision kept dropping. It was a condition that doctors really had no idea, so no treatment, no prognosis, nothing. So
Mm.
it just kept dropping, and I think about 9 years back, I realized that suddenly, everything was getting wavy. My vision was still dropping. I couldn't read anything at all. I mean, howsoever big, nothing I could read.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a phase when somebody, who has been cited and working with organizations, and I was at senior level at that time, suddenly, it just hits you. And
Mm-hmm.
I went through a phase, 2.5, 3 years. I was just sitting at home. There was complete loss of confidence. There was this whole thing in the mind: can I do this? Can I do that? And question marks on everything. Like I said, loss of confidence. And this is the phase I slowly came out of. I started doing consulting. By that time, my vision had dropped drastically, and like I said, I couldn't read anything. And then there were certain chance events that happened, and that got me onto Louis Voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you like me to
Oh,
tell you the story behind the inspiration of Louis Voice? I can continue.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, actually, let me go into the vision, the loss of vision. How old was this when you took that medicine, or what was the medication for?
Okay, so I was in my early 30s, and I was about, I think, 30, 31. And I had some strange, joint pain, some kind of rheumatism, which doctors could not really diagnose. So they
Mm-hmm.
put me on a drug, and it's a very common drug. It's called chloroquine. So sometimes they do that when when they can't diagnose it. So the, the pain disappeared. So those pains have all disappeared.
Mm.
So whatever it was given for, I think that is gone. But then, it's sometimes in 1 or 2% of the cases, it can impact the retina, and that's what happened in my
Mm.
case.
Wow, that's very, yeah, that's very interesting. That's a wild story right there.
Yeah.
So okay, like you said, it happened when you were in your early 30s. So by that time, you've like you I think you mentioned it that you've seen a good portion of a lot of things within that time. So that's um yeah, that you've seen a lot at that point. So
Correct.
yeah, and so and you mentioned all the accomplishments. Excuse me. And you went to school and everything. You were very independent. Obviously. And then a tragic, I guess maybe that's, I don't know if that's a correct word or not, but a tragic thing happened. Did was that immediate, or that like took some time? I know you mentioned it was the effects was dropping dramatically, but was that within a certain amount of time, or how was that?
Oh, okay. No, I think this happened over a longish period, maybe over 10,
Mm,
12 years. Because,
okay, okay.
like I said, this is not your typical condition, so then doctors had no idea. In fact, they were very hopeful it wouldn't deteriorate, but it did. So nobody had
Mm,
any idea. It just kept happening on its own. So sometimes my
yeah.
far vision will drop, sometimes my near vision will drop. Then suddenly the central vision was gone. So it was just happening. So my macula is impacted, and I think there are some pigments also. I'm technically colorblind.
Yeah.
So this, everything that can happen was happening.
That's the wow. That must have been a tough transition. Like you said, you had a loss of confidence and things like that. But with all of that, how did you come out from that? What made you get back on your feet and continue life?
Yeah, right. So I think this is, like I said, I was doing some consulting work, and honestly, I was enjoying it quite a bit. Now there were two chance meetings, right? I think the first chance meeting was that I had gone to a very large venture capital company. I was meeting their managing director, and essentially looking for projects for consulting. And in that meeting, he
Mm,
heard my story. I spoke about the kind of technology available at that time. So I think you already spoke about it, Elvin. It was basically just a very basic screen reader that was available at that time. And and we discussed, and I said, look, there's a lot more that can be done. Honestly, I had no ideas at that time. So he said, okay, why don't I support you, and why don't we build apps for visually impaired? I mean, it was just just out of nowhere. So
mm,
okay, so I left the meeting. I wasn't sure. My mind was into consulting. I said, okay, where is this thing coming from? But then it
mm,
so happened that just a month down the line, I had gone to meet a friend in his office. On the way back, he took my smartphone and he said, why don't I book an Uber for you? So he took the phone. He asked me, okay, where do you want to go? I gave him my residential address. He said, okay, Uber is showing these three options. Which one you want to pick? So I said, okay, take this one. Then similarly, he asked me the ride. He told me the fare, how much time. So I told him to take this one. And then he confirmed everything. Where is the pickup, where I'm going, fare, and how am I paying for the ride. So all
mm,
that settled. He booked, and then he even called the driver for me. So in Uber, I mean, it just got me thinking. Because it was really a nice, pleasant experience, and I'll tell you, great thing about it. As a visually impaired, I always felt that there is always I want to be in control. Of what is so. Somebody just takes my phone and just does some booking for me. It doesn't really work. But the way
mm,
my friend was interacting with me, I mean, that whole experience, I was in control all through. He was just helping me, asking me questions. I was giving him a selection. It was a very interactive process. And then I thought, how about, building a virtual friend like this one right here on the phone screen, which will do
mm.
exactly the same thing. So it helps me do everything within an app, just like a sighted person. It does voice interaction with me. It does continuous voice interaction. So it doesn't keep on going silent like the way a Siri or a Google Assistant will do. And it does, like I said, everything. And this is what got me thinking about Louis, and that's how the Louis project started.
And what year did that project started? Well, we started working on it.
Yeah, so I've been working on this for about 4 years. We initially, because we always knew day one that it is going to be a complex technology, And I mean, the fact that there are all these big name voice assistants are not doing anything of the sort, that clearly meant that, look, I mean, we are trying to do what nobody else has done. And it was a very different way, because this was, I wanted to build it for a blind person. So the idea was very simple, that if somebody can't see the screen, if Louis works for that blind person, it will work for anybody else. So the use case
Yeah.
was a tough one, because I mean, there's nothing, so you have to presume, so just a voice interaction. And of course, users don't see technology. So, so howsoever complex, you had to still make it easy for the user. The user experience has to be simple, easy to
Correct.
understand, easy to use, and but 100% to deliver. Because if it doesn't do the task, then again, the app is really no good. We formally started a company 2.5 years back. So we are like a small, I call it a social venture. Technically, it's like a tech startup. We are funded. We have investors in India and the USA. And right now, I have a team of 14 people. Besides me, there are three more visually impaired people. And then there are five people in technology. These are sighted Android developers. We have people in marketing. So it's like a small team, but a full-fledged one.
Okay. No, that sounds great. And I want to interject here. I want to let my audience know that um like you mentioned earlier, you have a background in computer engineering, which that is very commendable, and I have a lot of respect for that. That is awesome, and uh, not only that, um, like you said, you lost your sight, and what a lot of times I hear with visually impaired people, or or or, or dealing with certain I guess applications with technology is like, okay, it does some things. It doesn't do a lot of things. That's kind of the question that we blind people encounter all the time. Like, what can it do for me to where it allows me to have full control? And you mentioned that earlier, of having control of the situation, because as a blind person, um obviously, uh like, once you lose your sight, you want to gain back that independence. You want to be able to do certain things on your own, versus having um a, a family member, or a friend that helps you all the time. And it's good sometimes, but it can have a negative impact as well. I mean, you don't, like I said, I mean, it can be good, but you don't want to overdo it, I guess, is my point. And being a blind person, you want to be able to be in full control of the situation, no matter where you are. It could be public, or in a private situation. Like, you just want something to where, like, you don't have to call on anyone, or rely on anyone to do something, either simple or complex. You want to be able to take that control, and it's not only the control part, but it's, you as a person, you want to be independent. And I think a lot of people, blind people especially, uh want that. They don't want to have to deal with any third party or situation, or whatever, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on that, like, uh and like I mentioned, you have a computer engineering background, and you being, having lost your sight. That's a key right there, because you're actually having input in putting this Louis voice application together. Because if it was coming from a sighted person, like, it'll be good, I believe, but it might be missing certain things to where, like you yourself, Pramit, that okay, I am blind. I'm living proof as a blind person, and whatever input you have, you know it already. You know what needs to be done. You know what this app may uh, uh, include, or it's something's missing with it. Like already. Like, okay, this is how I'm gonna go about it, and I want to make sure, like you said earlier, like it has to be 100% to where like I can be in full control of the app. So that's I just wanted to point that out real quick, Pramit. So that's pretty cool. Like to be able to do that. And so like you said, you have a full team that you put together. So yeah, I guess we can touch on the app itself. Like what I mean, it's where yeah, just talk about the app. Like,
Sure.
is it available on iOS at the moment? Is it on Android specifically? Um, and yeah, like how does it work? I know you talked about it briefly, but yeah, just go into the Louis voice itself.
Sure. So I think, like you said, in a way, Louis is all about solving my own problem, right? And in fact, while I was building it, there were times when I used to get these doubts. Am I the only idiot in the world who's probably going to use this app? So sadly, I've been proving wrong. And currently, this app is right now on Android. Next year we do feasibility for iOS for iPhones, and hopefully get it out for iPhone as well. Now what this app does, and I'll just talk a little bit about Louis voice control. So the whole idea is that all my popular apps and phone features, the phone settings, etc., uh, can I just control all of that with voice commands and do each and
Yeah, yeah,
everything? I think that's very important. So if I take
yeah.
the example of Uber, what Louis allows a user to do is to do each and everything, and through it's a continuous voice interaction. So it's not like so the difference with a voice assistant is, so if you try a Siri or a Google Assistant or even Alexa, they take a command and then they go silent. Take a command, go silent,
Mm,
and often they'll start the whole thing from fresh. And they will,
mm,
somebody will open your Uber app, somebody will just put your destination or your pickup in the app, but really don't won't
mm,
go beyond that. So what was really needed was, so let's say if an Uber booking is being done, so like the example I gave, it takes my destination, confirms my pickup, tells me what are the cheapest rides. In fact, Louis, we have added value. So Louis will always give rides in the order of increasing prices. If I'm a regular on a particular ride, I can mark it as a favorite. So that's the first ride Louis will always provide. So these are just touches,
mm,
value adds that we have built in. And then once before confirming, it just checks out everything, and you can even change your payment method and so on. You confirm, you can message the driver, call the driver, you can even cancel your ride if you want to, and you can even share your ride with your loved ones. You can post booking, call emergency. There were times, it happens rarely, but I needed to change my destination, so I had to ask the driver to stop the car, park it, and then do it for me. Louis can do that. It can do things like multiple stop booking. So the whole idea is that, look, can a visually impaired do each and everything within that app? So currently, the
okay.
apps that we support are Uber, YouTube, WhatsApp. It can do phone functionalities, like you could completely manage your contacts, edit, delete, block, everything. One can call, make phone calls. We are just putting in text messaging. And then the way we are taking things forward is we are working on both apps. So we are working right now on Messenger. We'll do Facebook. We want to do a food ordering
It,
app.
actually, I don't mean to cut you off there, from me. That kind of was my next question. You did mention YouTube and certain other apps. I was just gonna say, like, will it be accessible for, like, yeah, Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, Twitter? Like, how far are you guys gonna go into it? Are you guys gonna go full fledged, or is it just gonna be certain apps, or you guys trying to is your mission trying to make sure it's uh accessible for all the other apps?
Okay, great question. So, at a minimum, see the way what we try to do is okay. I mean, I just looked at my own life, okay, and I said, okay, as a visually impaired, my aspirations are no different from a sighted person, okay. So, what do I
Hmm.
need? So, of course, I need to keep in touch. So, therefore, I need all the communication apps. So, therefore, Messenger, Facebook, Twitter, maybe Instagram, because Instagram is still very visual, but yes, to a great extent, it can still be done. So
Yeah,
Telegram is also getting popular across the world. So I we take care of these social and messaging apps.
yeah.
Then then of course I would like to order food, and I've heard it from so many visually impaired people. So why not have a
That's a good point.
yeah?
Yeah,
So why
that's
not
a
have
good
an app
point.
for
Yeah.
food ordering, e-commerce? I think Amazon is the big one there. But how about doing that? Because like I said, aspirations are exactly the same. They are no different. So what we want to do
Hmm.
is, just look at various aspects of our life. Somebody in US told me, for example, she finds applying for jobs, because for visually impaired, applying for jobs is another very important, task. So maybe
Yes, yes.
something like that. I mean, we still have to go deeper into it, maybe into education. Then what we are trying to do, another thing is, we heard from a lot of users that they find searching, whether it's Google search or browsing on the web, reading articles on the web, reading attached
Yeah.
documents, PDF documents, something that it can just read. So what we want to do is, look at various aspects of our life, look at the various pain points, look at the various needs, and essentially do all the popular apps. I mean, we can't, of course, do the universe, but at least all the major
Right,
apps
right.
that can help us,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
live a better life.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's why I mentioned that, because I, I'm one of those that I use my Facebook, and I do use, like, yeah, Uber or Lyft, um and but yeah, I'm big into using my Facebook apps, my Instagram, my Twitter, because only because um that not only me personally, but I do follow up with, just because, like, I do stand up, like, I need to keep in touch with what's what's excuse me, what's going on out there with comedy shows, comedy events, and contacting my friends. And so I want to be able to have Louis voice be accessible, in that regard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's awesome. Like like you mentioned, so next year for iOS and Apple, like, how soon next year
Oh,
will
okay.
it be available?
So we will start doing the technical feasibility in the second half of next year. Now, for example, for Android, it took us almost 6 months to do the initial feasibility. This time, at least
Hmm.
we know the trick. Of course, we need to figure out to what extent iPhone will support the strategy we have in Android, or do we need to take on a different strategy. So I guess it will take
Hmm.
us at least 3 to 4 months to figure that out. And once I think technical
Okay.
feasibility is done, then one can run real fast, because the user experience, the flows, those are already in place.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. And you did mention uh how it's like Louis voice is very interactive. You did mention that. And as far as lag time, is there a big difference, or I mean, yeah, is there a lag or no? What's the how quick of a response is it when you're with Louis voice?
Okay, so I think this is a wonderful question, Alvin. So what happens is that it varies from app to app. Now, what we have to recognize is that Louis works on top of the screen, so it works on your app is running. Louis doesn't require any integration with the app, And it's like I said, a
Mm-hmm.
virtual friend who's sitting right here there on the phone screen, and which is doing taking the task. You give it the commands, it can do whatever work. Now a lot of the apps, so for example, I'll tell you, if you are talking of, let's say, contacts, phone calling, text messaging, I mean, that works super fast because that's right on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're
Okay.
talking of an Uber or a YouTube, because they have their, depending upon the internet connection, they will have their own sweet time to load a video or to get the rides, get the fares, and so on. So it
Mm-hmm.
varies, I think, from app to app, and also, of course, from depending upon the internet connectivity. And of
Okay.
course, what we have been trying to do is keep optimizing. So it's like an app. Right now we have users in about 70 countries, and the whole
Mm-hmm.
focus is on just getting their feedback, because that's the only way to help improve. In different countries there may be different challenges, intermittent internet connection and so on. So the whole
Yeah.
idea is that
Yeah.
you've got to keep fine tuning, optimizing, and wherever we recognize that, oh, there is a, we can cut off maybe half a second, some microsecond here, we keep doing that continuously. So it's like a continuous refinement which keeps happening. And of course the idea is to make it as fast, but then it will always be, because it can only be it can never be faster than YouTube itself. So there will always be,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, it completely depends. But it works reasonably well. And I must also add that what we have done is, so it works in two modes. So one is a normal mode when you start off, in which case you will always hear, would you like to select this destination? There's that. Yeah, there's a lot it speaks, because initially a person needs that hand holding. But let's say a few days down
Okay.
the line, you can move it to a zero verbosity mode, in which case it just gives bare essential commands, and you already know, you know your way, on the app. I mean, then it can be really fast.
Okay. Um, Another question I had was, okay, no, I appreciate your answer and your response to the question. Like, okay, you when you download the app, it's in your phone and everything. Now, um, so do you have to open up the app, and then once you open up the app, um, uh, so kind of just breaking it down, like, so you open up the app, and then that's when it begins to like start to opening your other apps, and then accessing um whatever stuff that you need on your phone. So is it like instant once you open the app? Is that how it works, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way it happens, first time you run it, it will do some initial setup. You can, for example, the text to speech voice for us is very critical. So you can choose any engine, any voice. You can then basically you just set it up. It can start by saying, "Hey Louis." You can start it off by just doing a double shake. You can start it from notification. There is a Louis setting screen also. So basically, for a visually impaired person, there are multiple ways in which you can start off Louis. It will just ask you initially, okay, which app you want to use. Let's say you choose YouTube. The next question, it asks you which video you want to watch. So you give the name. It will then just load YouTube. It will automatically itself put in that search results. It will read one search result after another. You can just select one, and then it sort of plays, and then you again have a control. So there is something called a magic gesture, which I think is there in the iPhone also, just a two-finger touch. So that's the only thing you require if you want to interrupt it. So if a video is playing and you want to, let's say, forward it by 43 seconds precisely, so you just do a double touch, two-finger tap, and just say forward 43 seconds, and it will do that. So that's how it works. You can
Hmm.
post a comment, and you can go on to the next one. You can do a fresh, I mean, everything within YouTube.
Okay. So there is a setup, um, when you download the app. There's a setup process.
Absolutely. And we also, within the
Okay.
app, we have built in a lot of videos. So there are something like 90 videos. These are all how-to videos. So it starts from even saying how do I use Louis for the first time? How do I do an Uber booking? How do I control the the video player? on YouTube. So there are small videos. So they are right inside the apps. You can just pick your selection. So there's a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of resource, so that the user doesn't get stuck. And of course, the app is fully
Yeah,
accessible.
no, no, that's good. I actually I, I didn't even know about that. So there's like a tutorial within the
Absolutely.
app.
There's a basic tutorial, and then you can use like also like a frequently asked questions in video form.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. Um, yeah, that's very exciting. I can't wait to hopefully use that app. I wish I can use it now,
Right.
but but yeah. Now hopefully, like you said, sometime next year, the second half of next year,
Absolutely.
possibly. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's very exciting because yeah, like I'm like I said, I mentioned earlier, I like to use my social media apps a lot, and so for me, someone like me, like I would like that that freedom, that control, um, uh, to use my app even more. Now is like I don't know how it is with Android right now, or when you do release it next year for Apple. Like, is it does it cost? Is there a cost? Is it free? What's the answer to that?
It's free right now, but and we have investors, like I said, in India and US. But of course,
Hmm.
so people see what happens, Alvin. Sometimes a lot of good ideas come, but they are not able to
Hmm.
sustain themselves. And I think that's a bigger loss. You develop something and then you're not
Hmm.
able to support it, and you know how it is. iPhone keep having its own iOS versions, Android keeps upgrading, so you need to be
Hmm.
able to sustain yourself, and therefore you need to charge. You need to have a price. But we want to take a very, very
Hmm.
different approach on this one. Now, what happens, and I'm talking this more from a global context. Now, what happens typically with a lot of
Hmm.
apps is that they come up with a price which is in US dollars. So they, let's say, put in $5 a
Hmm.
month. Now, maybe,
Hmm.
maybe I don't know. Maybe it works for US, but the moment you convert it into the same into local currencies across the world, I mean, most of the world is just
Hmm.
cannot afford it. Now we had this
Hmm.
this whole soul searching question. Okay, I mean, why are we doing this? And I am very clear that, look, there is a very, very strong social cause, and that's why we are doing it and putting in all the effort. So therefore, it's very
Hmm.
important that we keep it highly affordable across the world. Very, very important. So what we want to do,
Yes.
two
Yes.
things. So every country we need to hit a price point which is just fair, where we're not sort of price gouging or anything. We're just trying to make ends meet. That's it. So even in US, we look at a very, very
Hmm.
fair price. That's one. And then what we do across the world, we look at the per capita income of every country, purchasing power parity, and so on, and try and get a price. Where so if let's say a coffee in the US, let's say at a minimum cost you $3, let's say,
Yes.
now I can't do that same conversion. Every country it will be different. So the idea is that just one cup
Hmm.
of tea or coffee, I mean, depending upon in that country, is that all that we need, and at a fair price, not at a Starbucks rate. I mean, so not at so that's and my thought is very simple, and as so is so are investors, that look, we can be profitable but serve only 2% of the visually impaired population who can afford it, or we can be we
Right.
can be like I said, we can make sure that we make our ends meet, but trying to serve each and every user, for each and every user across the world, it should be affordable, and I think that's the real success to my mind.
Okay. Yeah. No, I appreciate your response. So you're basically saying a fair price for uh, an app that allows you to do or that has a lot of features that will have help, excuse me, help blind users and like you said earlier, non-blind users, like sighted people, right? Like sighted people can even use or even certain people with uh, disabilities would have trouble with using their hands, right?
Absolutely.
I believe you. Yeah.
And
No,
for elderly
that's
people,
awesome.
Alvin, elderly is another very big, I mean, a lot of countries are aging rapidly. And I mean, for
Yes.
them, there's also a fear of technology for them. So it's going to be good for them as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm glad we touched on that. I actually wanted to um talk about that a little bit. So it's not only it's not only for the blind users, it's for people that's sighted and with certain ailments. Like you said, the elderly population can use it. So that's awesome. Uh, what else? What else can I ask you? I think we probably covered the main things that I wanted to talk about. Um, anything else um, that you want to mention or you forgot to mention earlier or
Oh, yes,
anything?
I want to talk about how the name Louis came. I think that's an interesting,
Yeah,
story. So we were looking,
yeah, yeah. Let's
yeah,
let's
so
let's
we
go
were
over that.
looking for, a short name, a short and sweet name, easy to pronounce all over the world. That's very important because if you want to start it with Hey Louis, it can't be complex. And then while we were doing that, one of the agency we work with, they came up with saying that, okay, why don't you call it Louis, because it's we thought about Louis Braille. And if Braille has
Yes.
that Braille has so much changed our life, maybe Louis, that can be the inspiration with which you work. So that's what it is. So maybe we'll also hopefully make some little contribution to the lives of all of us. So that's how then we just love the name Louis, and Louis stuck.
No, that's great. For I mean, however it came about, I think that's awesome because once I heard it was called Louis Voice, I made the instant connection to wow. I think it's
Okay.
probably a Louis Braille connection there. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, man. Pramit, I think we'll wrap it up. Um, yeah, I think that's it covers everything. Thank you for joining me and telling us about your project. Um, it's Louis Voice for those that are curious or interested. It's an app that allows not only blind users but people with difficulties using their hand. Obviously, the elderly population, like we mentioned earlier. That I'm really excited about this app. Right now, it's on Android, so a lot of people can download the app on Android, and hopefully, sometime next year for iPhone users. Um, be on the lookout for that. I'm really, really excited for that to come out next year. Uh, yeah. So Pramit, thank you. Thank you for, like I said, joining us and giving us some information on your project. And we appreciate your contribution to the blind community and we commend you on your work and hopefully we can spread the word and have this be have this go viral maybe who knows I don't know.
Right. Thank you so much. I really look forward to your support.
Yeah, so is there anywhere anything else you want to plug or people can follow you
Yeah.
or check out your work you do you want to plug
Yeah, I'll
anything?
just I'll just give my email ID. Like I said, user feedback for us is very important. So any feedback, suggestions, ideas are most welcome. My email ID is Pramit, Pramit at louisvoice.com.
Hmm.
So it's Pramit at louisvoice.com. And just remember, Louis is spelled out as Louie. Louie. So Pramit at louisvoice.com.
So Pramit at louisbraille.com.
louisvoice.com. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Correct.
louisvoice.com.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. We'll get that out there. So so if anyone has any questions, be sure to drop him an email. You know, I think that's all my questions. Maybe someone else has a lot more questions that I don't know. You know, maybe someone else can shed light on other things that I you know didn't ask or anything like that. So yeah, please hit him up, email him, um, and yeah. Pramit, thank you again. We appreciate you. We look forward in maybe talking to you in the
Thank
future.
you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you.